What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lambs Amongst Wolves, week 2. And can we give it up for Chaz? He's our creative guru. He comes up with crazy ideas like chugging a can of Coke to answer a simple trivia question, or those videos we put on. Those are all Chaz's ideas. Amazing creativity there. Let's also give it up for Luke and Claire for kicking off our series. Who was here last week? So a lot of you got to hear the kickoff of our brand new series, so they did an amazing job as well. And they kicked off this series, and it's called Lambs Amongst Wolves because it's from this passage in Luke chapter 10, and Jesus is talking to a group of 72 Christians. So imagine there's 72 of us, and Jesus is up here, and Jesus is saying, I'm about to send you out to share your faith. I'm going to send you out to this town, so we're going to go down Veterans Parkway. We're going to go to all these different businesses and Walmart, and I'm going to send you out to go share Jesus with everyone around. Like, that would be a pretty scary thing, but that's what Jesus is doing here. But when Jesus is about to send them out, he says this iconic line. He says, but warning, you will be like lambs amongst wolves. And the reason we called this series is that because it's true. And basically what it means is if you are a Christian in this world, there's going to be people naturally who don't like us very much. Just straight up, that's what it means to be a lamb amongst wolves. It means we're going to share Jesus with others in a world where there's people who may hate us for loving Jesus. And Jesus actually said himself in the Bible, he says, don't be upset if somebody hates you because they first hated me. And that's kind of a scary thing to know that when we're following Jesus, that there's going to be wolves out there. And we see this in Luke chapter 10, verses 1 through 3. This is where that phrase comes from. We're going to read it up here on the screen together. Jesus says, after this, the Lord appointed 72 others and sent them 2 by 2 ahead of him to every town and place where he was about to go. He told them, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. Go, I am sending you out like lambs among wolves. And that's where we get the name from. That's what Jesus says. He gives us a warning. So last week, Luke and Claire kicked off this series, and he asked you guys a question. Do you remember what the main question was that they asked you? Anybody? He asked you the question, are you willing to go? Are you willing to go? That was the whole point that they had last week. Are you willing to go as a lamb amongst wolves? That can be a scary thing, right? And maybe you heard that message last week and you're kind of pumped up. You're like, I'm ready to go. I want to share my faith. I know there's people in my life who are lost without Jesus. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to share. But now you're kind of like, now what? Like, I'm ready, but I don't know what to do. What do I say? Do I just go up to someone and stop them? Do I wait for it to naturally kind of come up in a situation? What do I do when I'm ready to go share my faith with someone else? So Jesus gives those instructions to these 72 Christians, and the cool thing is that Jesus doesn't just say go. He actually, in the next several verses, teaches us what we're supposed to do when we go. So we see that we're going to go over 3 different things that Jesus tells us to do. And the first is from the next verse here, Luke 10, verse 4. Here's what it says. Jesus commands them. These are the instructions Jesus is about to give. He says, don't take any money with you, nor a traveler's bag, nor an extra pair of sandals, and don't stop to greet anyone on the road. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear this, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. It kind of freaks me out because there's 2 types of people when you go on a trip, okay? When you're packing your bags, getting ready for a vacation or a trip or a mission trip, there's 2 types of people, okay? Here are the 2 pictures up here. You're either the type 1 person who you have a list, you're double checking it, you're triple checking it, you got everything ready to go out by the living room door the night before. And then there's group 2, and you're the kind of guy or person where oh, there's 5 minutes left, let's just throw everything into a bag. Your mom might be like, you only got 1 pair of underwear, and you're like, it's okay, I'll just turn it backwards and inside out. That'll get me 3 days worth. And you're just kind of chucking everything in there. So who's the type 1 person in here who plans things out? Like, you're just like, I want to make sure I have everything I need. All right, who's the type 2 person where you're like 5 minutes before, I'm just cramming everything into that bag and we're good to go? Okay, so we're pretty 50-50 here. Well, for me, this verse freaks me out because I like to prepare. I'm like a prepper. I like to, get a list. I like to double check it. I like to triple check it. I want to make sure I have everything so that I'm prepared for anything. But I'm freaked out when I hear these verses because Jesus is like, no, just bring a minimal amount of things and trust me with the rest. And that's scary to me because a lot of times I put my own trust in my own abilities and my own preparedness more than I trust God. And God's almost sending them out to be like, no, I don't want you to be prepared with all these things. I want you to trust me, and I'm going to guide you on who to talk to, where to go. I'm going to point someone out for you to talk to, and I'm going to show you step by step where to go. And for me, that's kind of scary because I'm a planner. I like a plan, and sometimes that scares me. But I think this is the first truth and the first instruction that Jesus is giving us. It's this: trust God will give you opportunities to share your faith. We got to trust that God's going to give us opportunities. It's not always going to be some big master plan. I'm going to go to this person. I'm going to say this exact thing. I'm going to do it in this way. Sometimes in the moment, God is going to give you opportunities to share Jesus with someone else. And that can be really scary, but we have to be ready. I remember for me, I was working at a grocery store. I was about 17 years old. And I was working at this, it's called Publix. It's a grocery store down south. That's where I worked through high school. And I was a grocery bagger. So a lot of times you're standing at the end of a register bagging the groceries, and you kind of partner up with a cashier. So you work with that cashier like a whole shift. So there's a lot of downtime when there's no customers and you're talking, just hanging out. And I remember in my youth group when I was 17, our youth pastor was challenging us to share our faith with others. And I just kept thinking and praying to God a similar prayer like, God, give me your eyes. Show me who you want me to share my faith with. God, do you want me to share my faith with a cashier? And I just remember for like this 6-hour shift, I'm just sitting there like, what do I do? Do I just say it? Do I just force it? What do I do? And I won't forget this. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm just standing there silently. The cashier's kind of standing there silently because there's no customers. And she just turns to me and she says, Silas, what's the point of all this? Why am I here? And I'm like, what in the world? This girl just turned to me and asked me the perfect question to share Jesus, and I knew exactly what to say. I knew exactly what to share. I wanted to share Jesus with her, but I just froze. I was like, I didn't know what to say, and I choked. And I think I said something else. I don't remember what I said, but I just remember I choked and I didn't say anything. And I always regretted that day. And the reason I regret it so much is because that could have been her last chance to hear about Jesus, and I wasn't ready. Guys, we got to be ready because Jesus, I promise you, Jesus is going to give you opportunities to share your faith, but you got to be ready. And I remember I regretted that day, but from that point on, I had a resolve that whenever someone was going to bring it up, I would always be ready from that point on to share. So, God doesn't always want you to plan every single step out, but He knows this. He wants you to be faithful when He gives you the opportunity to share. The next thing we see is in Luke chapter 10, verses 5 and 6. This is the next instruction that Jesus gives us. This is what He says. He says, whenever you enter someone's home, first say, may God's peace be on this house. If those who live there are peaceful, the blessing will stand. If they are not, the blessing will return to you. So what this basically means is they didn't even get hotels, right? They were supposed to go house to house, seeing who might host them and let them stay there. Like, that freaks me even more out because I don't think I would ever go on a mission trip where they're like, we don't got a place for you to stay. You just got to go door to door and figure it out. That would be terrifying to me. And I'm like, how does this apply to my life today? But one thing I realized in this passage is that they were getting rejected or accepted for the mission they were on. And I think the second truth Jesus wants us to get here is that we need to trust God in moments of victory and discouragement. In moments of victory and discouragement. I mean, if you're a Christian in this world, there's going to be times that you're accepted and there's going to be times you're rejected. There's going to be some times when someone's a bully and smashes your Oreos on the table. There's going to be times, figuratively, that there's wolves out to get you. And maybe it looks like someone making fun of you, saying like, oh, that's the idiot on our team who believes all this God crap. There's going to be people who make fun of you for it. There's going to be people who bully you for it. And there's going to be people who straight up don't like you. Even if you're super nice to them, they're not going to like you because you are a Christian. It's going to happen. So this is so important. We need to trust God in moments of victory and discouragement. I remember there was times in my life when I was at the grocery store that I would share my faith with. From that day on, I was kind of committed to share my faith. So I started just sharing my faith like crazy to people that I worked with at this grocery store. And some people went great. I mean, there was people that, I remember this one dude, I prayed for him to accept Christ. In the back room, we were filling up mop buckets to clean the bathrooms. And he just asked me a question. He was like, Silas, man, I've been meaning to get back in church and all this God stuff, but I think I need to clean my life up first. And I said, it doesn't work that way, bro. We go to Jesus so he can clean our lives up. You don't have to get everything figured out. Bring Jesus everything right now. He can forgive you of your sins, and he can cleanse you, and he can change your life. And I remember I prayed for him to accept Jesus as his Lord and Savior right there, and he got baptized. And that was super cool. That was really cool. But there was also moments where I had discouragement because people didn't respond the best way. Maybe they made fun of me for it. Maybe they just rejected me. I don't want to hear it. I even had a boss threaten to fire me because he knew I was sharing my faith. And I could see why he didn't want me doing that, but that didn't stop me. So there was times where I was really discouraged. And you might say, Silas, wasn't that embarrassing? Wasn't that humiliating? Didn't you feel like a fool when people rejected you in front of other people? I can honestly say I've never regretted sharing my faith. Even the times where I felt like it didn't go as well, the times I think it did go amazing, I've never regretted sharing my faith. But the moments I do regret are the times where God was telling me to share my faith with someone and I didn't. Because that could have been their last chance to hear about Jesus. And I don't think we think like that. Like, God's going to give us opportunities, and if we pass up on them, we got to think like, wow, that might have been their last chance to hear about Jesus. It kind of changes the way we think about things. It kind of changes the way we live and the way we live our lives and look at others. So if you're here today and you're hearing all this, you're like, I'm still scared out of my mind, I got some encouragement for you. It's found in Luke chapter 10, verse 7. This is the last verse we'll be looking at here today. And this is Jesus' last instruction here. He says, don't move around from home to home. Stay in one place, eating and drinking what they provide. Don't hesitate to accept hospitality because those who work deserve their pay. And basically, Jesus is saying that there's going to be moments in your life where you are discouraged, and it's kind of this good news, bad news situation, right? Has anyone ever come up to you and said, all right, here, do you want the good news or the bad news? Has anyone ever said that to you? All right, who likes the good news first? Anybody? Who likes the bad news first? All right, why is that? Anybody want to answer? Why do you think? In the orange right here. So what was that? Get it over with? What about you, Katie? You're wearing orange too, sorry. So you kind of get the bad over with, all right? Yeah, so if you do the bad first, it kind of like brightens up the bad thing when you get the good thing second. But a lot of times if you do the good thing first, then the bad thing kind of like makes the good thing not seem as good, I guess. So I'm with you. I like to get the bad news out of the way first. And this is kind of what Jesus is doing here. Jesus gives us the bad news first, that sometimes you're going to get rejected and you need to move on. But here Jesus is giving the good news. And I love that he does that because that's exactly the same way I like it as well. So Jesus is promising that when you're in those moments, he's going to send someone to encourage you just when you need it most. So this is the third thing I want us to do. We need to trust God will send you people to encourage you in his mission. We need to trust that God's going to put someone in your life who's going to mentor you, encourage you, someone who's going to be hospitable to you just when you need it most. And I'm going back again to the grocery store, okay? So there was this very distinct moment I remember. I'm working at the grocery store, and I remember I'm sharing my faith with someone, and she totally rejects me. She just totally rejects me, and I felt just kind of defeated. And then my boss came over and heard that I was talking to her, or she complained to my boss, I'm not sure. But my boss came over and started chewing me out for it. And I remember I went back to my register. I'm a cashier at this point, and I'm just like, I just feel kind of defeated. I feel bummed out, and I feel like, God, what was the point of that? It went so bad, and my boss yelled at me. What was the point? And I won't forget it. It was just when I needed it most. Just when I needed encouragement, just when I needed to see what's the point in all this. I had this girl who was under me came over, and she was, I think she was about 15 at the time. She was a grocery bagger. She came up to me and said, Silas, my youth pastor at my youth group has been challenging me to share my faith, and I've been super afraid and super nervous, but I want to let you know that seeing you share your faith, I thought it was really cool, and I feel like it inspired me, encouraged me of how I can share my faith to someone else. And I was like, that was mind-blowing to me, that right when I needed it most, I believe God sent her to me to encourage me because she saw the example in it, and she wants to do the same. Then a little bit after that, I had another dude who was 16. He was also a bagger. He came up to me. He's like, hey, man, I heard you sharing your faith to so-and-so. I think that's really cool. I'm a Christian as well, and I don't see it very much. And a lot of times I'm afraid to tell other people I'm a Christian. So I just want to thank you for encouraging me to not be ashamed that I'm a Christian, not to keep it like a secret identity. And God sent me that person too, back to back. And it was just so encouraging to see that if you're faithful, God's going to send people when you're discouraged to encourage you. He's going to send people for you to see the point and the purpose and everything, and to give you the strength to keep going. It's worth it, guys. It's worth it. So last week, the question Luke and Claire gave you is, are you willing to go? But this week, I want to give you another question. It's, are you willing to trust God when you go? So you might have already kind of answered that first question. You're like, okay, I want to go. I want to share my faith. But now the question is, are you willing to trust God when you go? Because you're not always going to have a plan. You're not always going to have every answer or everything figured out. But are you willing to be faithful to God anyways? And trust He's going to give you the words to say. Trust He's going to put someone in your heart that He wants you to go talk to. And a perfect way to practice this is next week, because next week is Motion Night. Who's ever been to Motion Night? We had our very first Motion Night. If you don't know what Motion Night is, let me tell you about it. Basically, we had about 300 students in this gym from front to back. We had 30 students get baptized. But the whole point of Motion Night is for us to partner with you to invite your friends to church. This is the chance. Like if you were going to invite a friend to church with you, this is the night you want them to go to, is next week, Motion Night. I believe it's 6:30 to 8:30. It's amazing. It's incredible. We give away an Xbox. We have inflatables. We have food. We just have a giant party out in the commons. And then we come in here. We have a hype worship service. And we have an awesome message. Last week, or last time we had it, we saw 30 students get baptized, give their life to Jesus for the very first time. So if you have a friend that you have, like God's placed them on your heart, and you're like, I'm ready to invite. I'm ready to do this thing. Then Motion Night, that is the week that you need to be here. That is the week you need to be here. We'll answer any questions at groups, okay? So that's next week. So my question to you is this: when you're at school this week, because there's just a couple weeks left before summer break, who are you going to invite to Motion Night? Who are you going to trust God? Maybe you're already, God's popping different people into your head, and you're kind of like, oh, that's the person I need to invite. That's the person I need to bring with me who needs Jesus. If there's any other week to bring them, Motion Night is that week. So where are you willing to let God, trust God to show you who to invite, to show you what to say in the moment? We got to be willing to trust God this week as we're inviting people to Motion, because I believe God wants to change the life of your friend at Motion Night too. So the whole goal is to get your friend here, and they just have a blast. They're like, man, I love church. I want to come back, hear about Jesus more. So Motion Night's incredible. We're going to pack out this gym. We're going to be giving away an Xbox. We're going to have a lot of fun. But man, it's just a great opportunity to invite your friends. So that's next week, next Sunday night. We'll still have middle school services in the morning, but that night we're having Motion Night. So I want to challenge you. Where is God calling you to trust? Who is God wanting you to invite and to share your faith with this week? Let's pray really quick, guys. Dear Jesus, I just want to thank you for all the students in this room. I want to thank you for just a beautiful morning where we can come and hang out and have fun, spit Diet Coke all over the floor, but learn about you and worship you and fellowship with each other. Father, I pray for these students because they're going out like lambs amongst wolves. There's people who don't like them. But God, I pray that they could be faithful anyways, that they could continue to love others anyways, that they could continue to share Jesus anyways. And God, if there's anyone in here who's feeling discouraged as a Christian or anyone who feels like they have to keep their faith like a secret superhero identity, God, I pray that you give them the courage, that you bring someone to be an encouragement in their life so they can have the strength to keep going and keep fighting because it's worth it. God, I pray you make these students ready and prepared at any situation. If someone were to ask them, they could share their faith with others and maybe they could accept Jesus too. And God, I want to lift up Motion Night, that we'd have more students in here than ever, that we would have more than 300 people here. It'd be bigger than last time, and that more people would get baptized and give their lives to you, Jesus. So we pray these things in your Son's name. Amen. Hey guys, check out the screen.
This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the song of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. I thought I was too far gone to always leave the light on. Praise God, praise God, praise God.
All right. Like Silas said, Motion Night, and like you saw in the video, Motion Night is next Sunday. You'll be here at 5:30 is when the doors open, and we actually want to do something for a second. So if I could just invite everybody to stand up. And what we're going to do is I want everyone to pair up for just a second. Grab a partner, basically. If you need to do 3, you can, but just pair up. And what we're going to do is, in this passage that we've been studying in Luke 10, leading up to Motion Night, it says that Jesus sent them out. But what is unique about how he sent them out is, did he send them out alone? No. He sent them out in what? In pairs. Okay, so what we're going to do for a second is we're going to invite you to just take some time. If you want to come to the front of the stage or maybe go to the corner, go to the back, and just be with your person and tell them who's your one. Who's the one person that you're going to invite this week to Motion Night? Who's the one person you're going to invite to church? So you can go ahead and we're going to split up, and we just want you guys to pray for each other, pray for your one, and then when you're done, you can just come back and sit down, and then I'll pray at the end, okay? Sound good? So you can go ahead and just split up. All right, we're going to go ahead and pray together. If you would pray with me, and then we'll go to table groups. Dear God, I just thank you for all the students in the room. I pray right now for whoever the person was that they feel that you're putting on their heart to invite to church and to Motion Night, Lord. And I just pray that you'd give everyone here strength and courage and your peace and understanding to invite and to tell others about Jesus. And I pray that we would all just trust you so that you could send us out and that we could tell the world about you. And we thank you for the good news that is your death, burial, and resurrection. Just be with us this week, Lord, and I pray in your name. Amen.